In a grand mansion, whispers of silence linger like shadows, concealing untold stories and profound mysteries. Picture a world where the echoes of a soft lullaby resonate against opulent walls, where love intertwines with sorrow, and a devoted sister named Margaret embarks on a journey that could change everything. What if the key to unlocking the truth behind her mute and immobile siblings lay in the hands of an unexpected figure, a maid named Clara? As Margaret navigates her family's wealth and the emotional void surrounding her siblings, she discovers that the silence in their home may conceal something far more significant than their disabilities. This narrative invites you to delve into a tale woven with compassion and the complexities of family dynamics, where the pursuit of truth leads to unexpected revelations. Have you ever wondered how much we might overlook in our quest for comfort and security? Join us as we unravel the threads of this poignant story, exploring the delicate balance between privilege and responsibility and the power of empathy. As Margaret and Clara confront the barriers of status and the weight of their past, they ignite a spark of hope that challenges the very foundations of their lives. Will they be able to transform the silence that once echoed through their home into a symphony of connection and care? In the heart of the sprawling mansion, the air was thick with a silence that spoke volumes. Margaret, the oil tycoon's devoted daughter, often found herself lost in thought as she gazed at her siblings, who had been born unable to speak or move. Their presence filled her with a deep sense of love, but also a profound sorrow as she grappled with the limitations that defined their lives. It was a strange bond they shared, one that transcended words and movements, anchored instead in the tender glances and soft touches exchanged in their quiet world. Margaret often pondered what it must be like for them, trapped within their own bodies, unable to express the thoughts and feelings swirling inside. Have you ever felt an unbreakable connection with someone, even when words fail you? That was Margaret's reality every day, a mixture of frustration for her siblings and an unwavering determination to understand them better. Every evening she would enter their rooms, finding comfort in the soft lullabies that floated through the air like whispers of hope. The melodies wrapped around her siblings, creating a bubble of warmth and familiarity amidst the starkness of their condition. Margaret had always believed that love could bridge any gap, yet the silence in the mansion often felt like an insurmountable wall. She would sit by their sides, holding their hands, wondering what thoughts lingered behind their still gazes. Did they feel her presence? Did they understand her? It was in these moments that the enormity of their situation washed over her, pushing her to seek answers, to look beyond the surface and uncover the truth hidden within the walls of their home. One evening, while she was lost in contemplation, she noticed Clara, the family's maid, moving with unusual intensity in the nursery. Clara had been with the family for years, and Margaret had always admired her dedication. But that night there was something different about her demeanor. It was as if she were guarding a secret. Margaret's curiosity piqued, and she instinctively moved closer, careful not to disturb the serene atmosphere that enveloped her siblings. What could Clara be doing that required such focus? The sight of Clara clutching a small ornate key, one that Margaret recognized as a family heirloom, sent a ripple of intrigue through her. What was hidden behind that key? What doors could it unlock, both literally and metaphorically? As Margaret observed, a rush of questions flooded her mind. Clara had always been a source of comfort and stability in their chaotic lives, but what if she held insights about her siblings that Margaret had never considered? Perhaps there were stories buried deep within the mansion's history, narratives that could shed light on the challenges her siblings faced. Margaret's heart raced at the thought of uncovering hidden truths, and she felt a gentle push to explore this newfound lead. What do you think? Could the key hold the answers Margaret had been seeking for so long? In the days that followed, Margaret found herself forging a deeper bond with Clara, sharing moments of vulnerability and hope. It was during these conversations that Clara revealed snippets of her past, stories that intertwined with the family's history in unexpected ways. As they exchanged their fears and dreams for the siblings, Margaret felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. She began to see Clara not just as a domestic figure, but as a vital part of their family, someone who understood the weight of their silence and the longing for connection. Yet as their friendship blossomed, Margaret became increasingly aware of the barriers imposed by their family's status. The butler, a stern figure who prioritized reputation over compassion, seemed to embody the very constraints that trapped her siblings. He often dismissed Margaret's inquiries, insisting that they should simply accept their situation as a family. But how could she accept this when her heart knew there was more beneath the surface? The tension between loyalty to her family and her desire to uncover the truth grew stronger. The mansion, once a sanctuary, felt more like a gilded cage. Have you ever felt torn between what you should do and what you know is right? That was Margaret's predicament as she wrestled with the expectations placed upon her by her family and the moral obligation she felt toward her siblings. As she navigated this complex landscape, Margaret found herself at a crossroads where every choice could either deepen the silence or transform it into a voice of truth. Determined to act, Margaret and Clara devised a plan to uncover the significance of the key, ready to face the potential consequences of their quest for answers. With Clara by her side, Margaret felt a surge of courage, eager to challenge the silence that had long overshadowed her siblings. They ventured into a forgotten corner of the mansion, a realm cloaked in dust and shadows, where echoes of the past lingered like distant whispers. As they approached the door the key would unlock, Margaret's heart raced with anticipation. What if this door held the secrets they desperately sought? What if behind those walls they could find a way to reconnect with her siblings? Each turn of the key filled them with hope. When the door creaked open, Margaret stepped into the room, her breath catching in her throat. It was a treasure trove of memories filled with remnants of a life once lived, forgotten toys and faded photographs that spoke of intertwined joy and sorrow. As they sifted through the artifacts, Margaret uncovered documents that unveiled a shocking truth. Decisions made by her parents had unknowingly affected her siblings' lives in ways she never imagined. The realization struck her like lightning. The silence that enveloped their family was not merely a result of her siblings' conditions, but a manifestation of their collective denial. How could they have allowed this to happen? How could they have overlooked the very ones they were meant to protect? In that moment, Margaret's outrage transformed into a profound sense of responsibility. She recognized that her journey was not solely about her siblings, but also about confronting the buried truths that had long been ignored. This was a turning point, a moment of clarity that would shape the future of her family. As she exited the room, clutching the documents tightly, a renewed sense of purpose washed over her. What if, by sharing their story, they could break the silence that had trapped her siblings and, by extension, the entire family? As the narrative unfolds, viewers are invited to reflect on the significance of connection, understanding, and the courage to confront uncomfortable truths. Margaret's journey illustrates the transformative power of empathy and the necessity of listening to those who often go unheard. The bond between Margaret and her siblings deepens as she advocates for their dignity, reminding us of the duty we all share to stand up for those we love. Ultimately, the mansion transforms into a symbol of hope rather than confinement, a sanctuary where healing can begin. The once ominous silence gives way to laughter and warmth, echoing the lesson that caring for one another can unlock the deepest bonds of love. If you find yourself moved by this story, consider sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Your reflections may resonate with others on their own journeys. Margaret stood frozen in the doorway of the nursery, the soft lullaby still echoing in her ears, her gaze fixed intently on Clara, the maid. There was something almost magical about the scene unfolding before her, a delicate interplay of shadows and light that heightened the tension in the air. Clara was hunched over, fingers clutching the ornate key, a cherished family heirloom whose significance had faded over time. Margaret's heart raced as she grappled with the image of Clara and the questions swirling in her mind. What was the maid doing with that key? What secrets did it hold? The more she pondered, the clearer it became that her family's legacy was intricately woven into Clara's life. Clara had been a constant presence, caring for her siblings with a tenderness that sometimes felt more genuine than the sterile affection offered by their privileged upbringing. It was as if Clara possessed a part of their family history that remained elusive to everyone else, a hidden narrative tucked away in the expansive mansion. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Margaret hesitated, taking in the sight of Clara's furrowed brow and the slight tremor of her hands as she turned the key over in her palms. Was this a moment of vulnerability for Clara, or was it something deeper? The maid had always exuded composure, but in that instant she appeared almost fragile, as if the weight of the family's history pressed heavily upon her shoulders. Margaret felt an irresistible urge to bridge the gap between them, to reach out and touch the essence of the truth that seemed just beyond her grasp. "What do you think, dear viewers?" she pondered silently, reflecting on the significance of their bond and the hidden layers of their lives. As the days went by, Clara's demeanor shifted subtly, her eyes darting with a mix of fear and determination whenever Margaret broached the subject of the key. It became evident that Clara knew more than she revealed, and Margaret found herself increasingly captivated by the enigma surrounding the maid. The mansion, with its grand architecture and opulent decor, morphed into a labyrinth of secrets, each room whispering tales of the past. The once inviting halls felt like a maze, heavy with the burden of unspoken truths. Margaret began to wonder just how much Clara had witnessed and endured during her years in their service. Were her siblings' silent struggles somehow intertwined with the shadows lingering in the corners of the mansion? One evening, after tucking her siblings away in their rooms, Margaret summoned the courage to confront Clara about the key. Their conversation unfolded tentatively, each word chosen with care as if they were both navigating a delicate web of trust. "Clara," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "I need to understand what this key means. It feels like it holds so much more than just a lock." Clara's eyes widened, a flicker of something, fear perhaps, passed over her face before she steeled herself. The air grew thick with anticipation as Margaret awaited Clara's response, knowing that the truth could shatter the silence or weave them closer together. The moment hung between them, charged with the potential for revelation, and Margaret found herself longing to uncover the secrets that had shaped not just her siblings' lives, but their entire family's narrative. Would Clara share the hidden stories that could finally illuminate the darkness surrounding them? The answer lay just beyond the threshold of understanding, waiting to be discovered. "I saw you with the key. There's something about it. I feel like it holds answers." Clara's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise crossing her face before she quickly masked it with a practiced smile. "Miss Margaret, the key is just a relic of the past," she replied, her tone dismissive yet laced with an undertone that piqued Margaret's curiosity even further. But Margaret wasn't easily deterred. She pressed on, her heart pounding as she shared her own feelings of helplessness regarding her siblings' condition. "I want to understand, Clara. I want to know how I can help them." In that moment, something shifted in the air. Clara's guarded demeanor softened, and the walls they had both built began to crumble. Clara took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears as she glanced toward the nursery. "There are things we cannot change, Miss Margaret, but there are also things we can discover together." As they delved deeper into the enigmatic history of the family, Clara began to reveal snippets of the past, weaving a tapestry of stories that connected the key to the family's legacy. The key, she explained, could open a room that had been sealed off for years, a place rumored to hold the answers to why Margaret's siblings were born mute and unable to move. The revelations were both exhilarating and terrifying, igniting a spark of determination within Margaret. She realized that the pursuit of truth, no matter how daunting, was a path worth following. With Clara by her side, they devised a plan to unlock the door that had remained closed for far too long. It was a moment fraught with anticipation, a tangible representation of their collective desire to understand not just the family's past, but also the implications of that past on the present. As they approached the door, Margaret's hand trembled slightly as she inserted the key into the lock. The audible click echoed in her ears, a sound that signified the unveiling of hidden truths. What would they find inside? Would the answers they sought bring them closer, or would they unravel the very fabric of their family? When the door creaked open, a wave of dust and memories rushed forth, enveloping them in an atmosphere thick with the weight of history. Inside, they discovered a room filled with old photographs, documents, and forgotten toys that told a story of a family grappling with the consequences of their choices. Clara pointed to a faded photograph of Margaret's parents their faces etched with hope and ambition. But it was the details in the background that struck Margaret most. A small, locked cabinet that had once held the family's most cherished possessions, alongside a small note that hinted at regret. As they sifted through the contents of the room, Margaret uncovered a series of letters that detailed the family's attempts to hide their struggles and maintain a facade of perfection. Each letter painted a picture of desperation, revealing the lengths to which her parents had gone to shield the world from the truth. The silence that had surrounded her siblings was not merely a physical condition, it was a result of choices made in the name of status and pride. The realization washed over her like a tide, leaving her breathless. Margaret looked at Clara, who had been a steadfast companion throughout this journey, and saw not just a maid but a confidant who had been silently bearing witness to the family's turmoil. "How could we have been so blind?" Margaret asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Clara placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, urging her to reflect on the importance of understanding and compassion. "Sometimes it takes a key to unlock not just doors, but also the hearts of those we love," she replied softly. This moment of revelation set off a chain reaction within Margaret, pushing her to confront her family and demand accountability for the choices that had led them to this point. It was time for a public reckoning, a moment where silence would give way to truth, and the bonds of love would be tested in the light of understanding. As she prepared to face her family, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. No longer would she allow her siblings to remain unseen, unheard, and unloved. In the end, the journey had transformed not only her understanding of her siblings' condition, but also her relationship with Clara. The key, once a mere object of curiosity, became a symbol of their shared commitment to uncovering the truth and fostering a legacy rooted in empathy and understanding. As the mansion began to resonate with laughter and warmth, Margaret realized that the real treasure lay not in wealth or status, but in the connections forged through shared struggles and the willingness to listen. So, dear viewers, what do you think? Have you ever found a key that unlocked a new understanding in your own life? Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of a family's hidden truths, consider subscribing for more stories that inspire reflection and connection. As Margaret stood in the dimly lit room, her heart raced with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The ornate key that Clara had revealed seemed to pulse with a life of its own, urging her to unlock the secrets hidden within the mansion's walls. What had been a place of silence and sorrow now promised the possibility of revelation. As the door creaked open, Margaret stepped inside, her senses heightened, aware that the truth she sought could change everything she thought she knew about her family and her siblings. The air was thick with dust, remnants of a past long forgotten, and as she surveyed the room, she felt an overwhelming sense of connection to the lives that had been lived here. Clara followed closely behind, her presence a comforting reminder of the bond they had forged in their shared quest for understanding. Together, they stood on the brink of discovery, ready to face whatever truths awaited them in the shadows of the past. The walls were adorned with faded photographs, each one capturing a moment of joy and celebration. Yet it was the scattered documents on a weathered desk that truly seized Margaret's attention. Each page seemed to whisper secrets of decisions made in the shadows, choices hidden away as if too painful to confront. As she sifted through the papers, the weight of her family's history pressed heavily on her. She found letters from doctors, reports detailing her siblings' condition, and notes that hinted at the desperation of their parents, who had poured resources into seeking answers only to turn away when faced with the harsh reality of their situation. It became painfully evident that the silence surrounding her siblings was not solely due to their disabilities, but also a reflection of the family's unwillingness to face the truth about their lives. Margaret's heart ached as she read about the experimental treatments that had been attempted, each one more invasive than the last, yet yielding no results. The letters painted a picture of hope, dashed against the rocks of reality, showcasing a family so consumed by their desire for perfection that they inadvertently abandoned the very ones they claimed to love. This revelation shattered the illusion that wealth could shield them from the pain of loss or the burden of responsibility. Looking at Clara, who stood silently by her side, Margaret realized they were both wrestling with the same painful understanding. The true cost of their family's legacy was far greater than they had ever imagined. In that moment, a surge of determination welled up within Margaret. She understood that honoring her siblings meant confronting the truth head-on and advocating for them in ways her family had failed to do. This was not merely about unlocking a room or uncovering secrets. It was about giving voice to those who had been silenced for far too long. Turning to Clara, she saw the fire in her eyes, a reflection of the hope they both shared for a better future. Together, they would not only uncover the truth, but also forge a path toward healing and redemption. As they left the room, Margaret's mind raced with thoughts about the impact of her family's decisions on her siblings. What if they had chosen differently? What if compassion had taken precedence over reputation? These questions lingered in the air, and Margaret felt a newfound sense of purpose. Confronting her family would not be an easy task, but she was resolute in her commitment to change. The key they had discovered was more than just a physical object. It symbolized the unlocking of a dialogue that had been sorely needed for years. With every step back through the mansion, Margaret envisioned a future where her siblings were seen and heard, where their needs were met with understanding and love rather than fear and denial. The confrontation came sooner than she anticipated. Gathering her family in the grand hall, she felt the echoes of their laughter and chatter turn foreign to her ears. Tension hung in the air, unspoken words hovering just above their heads. Standing before them, she felt both fear and strength coursing through her. When she began to speak, her voice was steady yet filled with emotion as she recounted the truths she had unearthed. The room fell silent as she shared the contents of the letters, exposing the realities of their siblings' lives and the weight of the family's choices. Each word challenged their understanding, calling them to recognize the pain that had been hidden for far too long. Margaret's parents listened, their expressions a mixture of shock and shame. The butler, who had always served as the guardian of the family's reputation, stood rigidly unsure of how to respond. As Margaret recounted the desperate measures taken in the name of hope, she witnessed a shift in her family's demeanor, a flicker of realization dawning upon them. They had constructed their lives around the belief that wealth could solve problems, yet now they faced the undeniable truth that love and understanding were far more valuable. In the aftermath of her revelation, Margaret's family began to grapple with the implications of their choices. This public reckoning was not merely about acknowledging their mistakes, it represented a commitment to a future where her siblings were prioritized. As they came together to devise a plan for care and advocacy, Margaret felt a wave of relief wash over her. The mansion, once filled with echoes of silence, buzzed with the promise of transformation. Clara, too, found her place in this new narrative. No longer just a maid, she was recognized for her vital role in the family's journey. As Margaret's family extended their apologies and sought to make amends, Clara's dignity was restored, and she became an integral part of their lives. Together, they worked diligently to create an environment where love, compassion, and understanding reigned supreme, transforming the mansion into a haven for those who needed it most. As the story neared its conclusion, Margaret reflected on the profound changes that had taken place. The silence that once enveloped her siblings was replaced with laughter, warmth, and connection. They were no longer hidden away. Instead, they were embraced, their needs understood and met. Each family member had learned the importance of listening and cherishing those they loved, regardless of the challenges they faced. The key they had uncovered served as a powerful reminder that while the past could not be changed, the future held endless possibilities. The moral of this journey was crystal clear. True wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the bonds of love and understanding we cultivate throughout our lives. Margaret had not only unlocked a door, but also the potential for healing and growth within her family. As the video concludes, viewers are invited to reflect on their own relationships, fostering a conversation about compassion and understanding in their lives. What steps can you take to ensure that love and understanding remain at the forefront of your family dynamics? As the story of Margaret and her siblings draws to a close, we are left with a powerful reminder of the importance of compassion and understanding. Margaret's journey, sparked by a seemingly simple moment of curiosity, unfolded into a profound transformation not just for her, but for her entire family. The once silent mansion, filled only with echoes of untold stories, gradually began to resonate with laughter and connection. It was through her bond with Clara, the maid, that Margaret found the courage to confront the family's past, uncovering truths that had long been buried beneath layers of privilege and denial. This journey was not merely about revealing hidden documents or challenging family legacies. It was about awakening a deeper sense of responsibility and empathy. The key that Clara held became a symbol of unlocking not just doors, but hearts, reminding us all that there is often more beneath the surface than we initially perceive. As Margaret and Clara ventured into that forgotten room, they unearthed not just the systemic failures that had contributed to her siblings' condition, but also the realization that silence can sometimes be a heavier burden than any physical limitation. The family's reckoning transformed their relationships, allowing them to embrace vulnerability and foster a newfound connection that was rich in love and understanding. It invites us to reflect on our own lives and the silences we may overlook. Are there voices waiting to be heard within our families, our friendships, or our communities? Margaret's evolution from outrage to advocacy serves as a beacon of hope. It encourages us to take action, to challenge the status quo, and to ensure that no one is left unheard. The mansion, once a symbol of affluence, became a testament to the power of empathy and the importance of nurturing relationships. It reminds us that true wealth is not measured by material possessions, but by the love we cultivate and the connections we forge. As we conclude this narrative, let us take a moment to appreciate the relationships in our lives and the stories waiting to be shared. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, has the potential to ignite change and foster understanding. Margaret's story encourages us to engage more deeply with those around us, to embrace the silent moments, and to be advocates for those who may not have a voice. Let this tale inspire us to listen, to act, and to cherish the connections that enrich our lives. If you found meaning in this story, we invite you to share your reflections in the comments below. What lessons resonate with you? And if you wish to explore more narratives that spark empathy and connection, consider subscribing for future stories that inspire and uplift. Together, we can create a world where every voice matters and every story is valued.